delivering clear, concise, and entertaining content on demand. This is sharpertalkmedia.com. Join the community. Welcome to Higher Up, the podcast designed to help you take your business to a higher level.
Get the latest news and updates on everything human resources. Unlock the occupational DNA so you can identify, select, develop, and retain top talent. And now your host, John Beck.
Higher Up Podcast, Episode 2. Well, first I'd like to take a moment and thank everyone for clicking in today. I know when it comes to your content, you have a choice. Each time that you select the Higher Up Podcast, it really means a lot to us, and we're going to continue to work hard and have the show develop into something that can be of value to you and your organization. I'd like to share a little story, kind of start off this episode. As an entrepreneur and owner of an organization, I started to let a few things slip on the home front as I was busy building the company. One of them was my lawn. I've always prided myself in keeping a pristine lawn, almost manicured to a certain point. And I knew things were looking bad when there was a soft knock at the door. As I answered it, I noticed this young fella, we'll just call him Timmy. He looked up at me and he said, "Mr. Beck," and I'd recognized him, I knew his parents. He said, "I really would like to offer my help in doing your lawn." I said, I can do everything. Cut grass, blow, weed eat, flower beds, you name it, I can do it. I looked at my lawn, once immaculate, now looked like a herd of golf hackers had come through, just chopped up, full of weeds. I said, "Well, Timmy, that sounds like a plan." So I slipped two $20 bills in his hand and said, "You go ahead and get to it." Well, several months went by and I never really talked to Timmy much. I'd see him in the yard and we'd wave, and I've always left his money under the mat every week. I could count on Timmy to show up every Thursday after school, and he did a great job. I was really pleased. Well, as those months went by, I received a phone call on my cell. I thought it odd. I answered it, didn't recognize the number, and this young voice came on, and he said, "Mr. Beck." I said, "Yes." He said, "You don't know me, sir, but I was just calling to see if you needed anyone to do things around your house, such as take care of your lawn." And I responded, "Well, I really have someone I'm very happy with. They do a great job." Well, the little voice was persistent. He went on and said, "Well, Mr. Beck, I can do grass, I can weed eat, I can do all of the things that you need done on your lawn, and I promise I would do a really good job." And I said, "Well, look, son, I really appreciate the call. I really do." I said, "But I have someone that I just could never get rid of. They do a fantastic job." And then there was a pause, and a little voice came back and said, "Well, that's just great, Mr. Beck. I'll see you on Thursday afternoon." And I was kind of stunned. I said, "Timmy?" He said, "Yes, Mr. Beck." He said, "It's me. I was just calling to check on myself." And if you think about it, Timmy wanted to make sure that I was happy. And that was just his little method of checking on himself and how he was doing. And for those of us in business, whether we are executives in the organization and running an HR department or a sales department or whatever the case may be, or an owner responsible for all of our processes throughout our organization, sometimes we need to sit back and check on ourselves. And that's something that at the Higher Up Podcast, we're going to try to do and do often, is ask the right questions and do the right things and provide the right information to help all of us check on ourselves so we can continue to take our business to a higher level. Now, as we go through that little story and how Timmy checked on his progress and how he was doing for me, which he did an outstanding job, I'd like you for a moment, unless you're driving or doing anything hazardous, I'd like you for a moment to close your eyes or at least just envision the next little story. And that is, think about that hiring process that you went through when everything worked out. You defined the job title, job description, had it nailed down. You executed the perfect recruitment strategy, and the recruitment process itself was just rolling on one step after the other. Everything was just falling right into place. You conducted all the proper pre-screening necessary. You conducted really great interviews. Everything was going great. Asked the right questions. The candidates were responding. You narrowed it down. You went through the background checks. They came back impeccable. Everything's looking great. You present the individual with an offer, and your star candidate accepts the perfect hire. You're so pumped. Everything went great. You place that individual, and 30, 60, 90 days later, you get a call from the department head. And you know what they say? Thank you. We sure would like another one just like candidate A. He or she did phenomenal. They're doing great, and we're expecting great things. Wow, what a great process. Now, I'd like you to think about this. So now you're challenged with finding another star. The first process worked out great. Should be easy. I'm going to follow the exact same steps. And you do. You execute all the steps again. You find that ideal candidate. You narrow it down. Then you're thinking to yourself, I have another one. I have another star. I can't wait. You make the offer and they accept. Success. I've got another great candidate lined up and ready to go. How good is that? Boy, you're feeling good about yourself. 30, 60, 90 days later, the phone rings and it's that same manager. And you're thinking, oh, how good this is going to be. He's going to just tell me how great I am and what a fantastic job I'm doing hiring and bringing in great people into the organization. Well, this time the tone is a little different. The manager says, who did you just send me? They're horrible. They have no idea. They don't fit the job. They're not even close. And you're just taken aback and stunned. You're thinking to yourself, I went through the exact same process, step by step. I mastered it. Everything was identical. What could have happened? What was missing? What do you think was missing? Well, in a lot of hiring processes, individuals and organizations typically, a lot of the cases, look at only part of the information. And the hiring process we talked about just a little earlier, it was filled with the first 2/3. And hiring can be broken down into the rule of thirds, where are 3 parts. First is the pass. The pass is the skills and experience and background information, including background checks. And that's all part of the pass, their work, their education, all of those things. And certainly we have to do our due diligence in looking into the past. Once we look into the past, then we look into the present. The present is the interview. It could be drug testing because that's taking place in the present. But all of those things are just kind of part of what we're doing. So when you think about looking at the past, which we must do, and the present, well, it just makes sense to do what? To look into the future. Now, we don't all have a crystal ball. Wish we did. If we did, I would probably not be doing this podcast, and I'd be sitting on a beach in the Cayman Islands somewhere. How do we look into the future and predict whether or not that first candidate, and we knew he was going to be a great match, and that second candidate who seemingly looked to be another perfect match was not? Well, there's only one way to do that, and that's with the use of a very good quality employee assessment instrument. And there are a ton of them out there. And we're not just going to harp on any particular one, but we're going to just talk about a process that I think all assessment instruments should at least be able to deliver these types of results. So first off, when you're looking into the future and you're trying to get that perfect past, present, and future match to the job. Now, a lot of folks may use what I call the shotgun approach in the assessment industry. The shotgun approach is where we're just looking for someone who's good in sales, or we're just looking for someone who's good in service, or we're just looking for that good manager. When you're looking at that, that's really, while you might think, well, that's rifled in, John. What are you talking about? We're looking for a manager, not a salesperson or customer service, but a manager. Well, it's still a pretty broad spectrum. And to me, that's really still the shotgun approach. So what I like to do and what I recommend is looking at it a little differently. And that is the concept of, and what I'm going to introduce you to, and we talked a little bit about it in episode 1, but now we're really kind of drilling down into it, and that's the occupational DNA match, which is all about the future and predictability and predicting job performance, future job performance. When we think about that rifled in approach, so let's just take an organization. So a lot of times you can go into an organization and you can ask the manager, who's looking to hire, let's say they're looking to hire someone in the sales arena, or it could be any position. We'll just pick sales for today. So they're looking to hire someone in sales, and let's just say they have about 100 sales folks currently working in their organization. One of the questions that I would normally ask in this type of situation is, and I'd ask the hiring managers and those folks managing these individuals, who in the organization does the best work? Well, they all know that. They can easily pull up reports, run the numbers, and easily identify by the numbers who's performing at the highest level, who's meeting quota, percent of quota, new account acquisition, any of the metrics that they are looking to track that they deem high performance. So we'll go through that process, but then the next question is, who does the best work? It's just because you do the most work doesn't mean it's the best. Well, they can easily narrow that field up a little further, a little tighter. So now we're looking at who does the most work, the best work. Then I always ask that question that kind of stuns them. If you have to start this organization over tomorrow, and out of the 100 folks you have working for you, you could only take 20 people, who would those top 20 be? And you would not believe it, almost without a doubt, every time I ask the question, they always know who the top 20 are. They're the ones who do the best work, the most work, and if they have to start the organization over tomorrow, who would those 20 be? They can name them. And they're mentally naming them as I'm asking those questions. Once I get them to that point, then the next thing is, those are the individuals who possess the occupational DNA for your organization. That's what we need. So we take that group of 20, those top performers, and you'll run them through an assessment process, basically extracting the occupational DNA that makes these people tick. But you can't just do it on personality, and you can't just do it on behavior, and certainly not aptitude. In fact, there's so many websites out there on how to beat aptitude assessments. It's incredible. Millions of links on how to beat an aptitude assessment. What we're looking to do is we're looking at the cognitive match, the behavioral match, as well as the occupational interest match. So we take all of those individuals, we assess them, and then from there you can build what we call a concurrent occupational DNA model, which then can be used as the baseline for hiring and selection in the future. And this, my friends, is a wonderful way to identify top talent and ensure that as you're bringing people into the organization, you're bringing in people with the highest possible match. And those individuals typically have a higher, much higher chance for success within the company. In fact, there are studies that show that those individuals who match the models or performance of the job are 2.5 times more productive than those who don't. So occupational DNA, when conducted properly, really can impact not only the individual working in the job, the organization, but as this process is continued to use throughout the company, it can help take the entire organization to a higher level. And that's really what we're all about. How to take the organization to a higher level. We can look at all the processes in the world, but it starts with people. You have to put the right people on the bus. But I will go a step further. Putting the right people on the bus, but getting them in the right seat. And that's what occupational DNA in that process can do for you and your organization. It can be applied across the board. Hiring, selection, promotion, succession planning, all of these different areas. So when you are looking at the opportunity to conduct this type of in-depth analysis within the organization, amazing things can happen. You'll see reduced stress and tension in the organization. Absenteeism's reduced. All of these things, because when people fit the job that they're intended to do, they perform at a much higher level. In fact, I'm going to quote Edward W. Deming, who said, if a person is not performing as expected, they're probably miscast for the job. The whole process solely falls back on the selection process. It's very easy to train individuals who have a high match for the job. Think about back when you were in school, whether it be high school or college, or even in a training class, or possibly even a company meeting. you'll notice that rule of thirds applies where in the classroom you have the instructor, or even in a corporate training room, you have someone facilitating and training and providing this information. 1/3 of the group is getting it, 1/3 is almost there, and another third is totally lost, just not getting it at all. Well, that's a clear level of job matching right there. If the group of employees are working in that particular job function and we are training them all the same, you will notice that the groups are starting to segment into who's really getting it, who started getting it, and who has no clue. When you look at the occupational DNA, not only can it help identify those people who have the right fit in those positions, but it also is a great process to help train, target, and rifle in the training necessary on how to communicate and train those individuals. For more on that process and that information, you're welcome to visit our site at HUP02-Show-Understand-DNA.mp3. And we'll have show notes and information, and we'll be discussing more about the occupational DNA process. But we just want to share that information with you here in episode 2. Right before the holidays, we're all ramping up here. The temperature's starting to drop. Christmas trees I see are on top of cars and in the back of trucks, so we're right in that season. We're going to continue to make every effort to put Hire Up Podcast out every week, even through the holidays. We'll do our very, very best. But I want to take this opportunity again to wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for tuning in. We know that you have a choice when it comes to your personal time and what you want to listen to. Again, the show is going to continue to grow and develop, and we hope that it becomes a part of what you feel is valuable. And even if there's just one little takeaway, we're just trying to deliver you that one nugget. We wish we could deliver you a cart full of gold on every podcast, but again, that one nugget could be worth so much that could really make a difference and take your organization to a higher level. This has been the Hire Up Podcast with John Beck. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Hire Up with John Beck.
For show notes, updates, and more on how to break the code to unlocking occupational DNA,
Join the community at hrhireup.com.
and take your business to a higher level. This has been an exclusive production of SharperTalkMedia.com. Join the community.